That's the sound of racism in your cup. And welcome to the Free Thinkers Podcast, the show that believes in free speech, original thought, and desire for truth. Hope everyone has a wonderful week. I am glad to be back with y'all, and it is a absolutely beautiful day in Florida. It is Monday. I am recording this the day before the supposed arrest of Donald Trump. Let me take another sip of racism here. One moment. That's so good. Had to have that tonight. There's an article that came out. I'll put it in context before you think I'm crazy. An article came out from the really strong site Afru, claiming drinking coffee is racist and white supremacist. Created by black people for black people, and now a pillar of white supremacist capitalism. If you consume coffee, you are helping an industry built on racism. Let me get one more little sip of that racism, and then we'll go on with the show. Hold on. Oh, I like my racism with a little powdered butter in it and some collagen and a little MCT oil, called bulletproof racism right there. I don't want to get into that. Bulletproof coffee is what I drink every single morning. And it's good stuff. But yeah, there's some crazy people out there. An article from the blog Afru claimed that drinking coffee perpetuates white supremacy, according to the article, created by black people for black people, and now a pillar of white supremacist capitalism. If you consume coffee, you are helping an industry built on racism. Don't forget that your morning coffee today is racist. If you're a person of color, you know what I'm talking about. You walk into a new coffee shop and your senses are overwhelmed with whiteness and you get the glare from the Karens. It just goes on and on and on. The article claims that every facet of the coffee industry is rooted in racism and that the drink is another thing stolen from black and brown people. Give me a break. The article counts back here a well-known fact that whites would be eating bland food like plain bread and gruel if it weren't for the theft of culinary secrets from people of color and especially black folks. I'm going to call a fable on that. I have been to Africa, and that's probably some of the worst food I've ever had in my life. But growing up in the South, it's some of the best food. I don't think it has to do with race. I think it has to do with ingredients. Because when you get some cornbread, some biscuits, and some collard greens, and some fried chicken and all that stuff that are cooked in the South, that's some good stuff. And it doesn't matter what color you are, because there's some white ladies and there's some black ladies. They all cook the same good stuff. Oh my goodness. I've had some incredible food cooked by white ladies. I've had some incredible food cooked by black ladies. This whole thing of just trying to just create this stupid racist thing is so insane. So yeah, now coffee is racist. You know what? Cool. Every day I'm going to wake up and just proclaim my racism with some good old coffee. But like I said, we're recording this on Monday night, and Saturday it was leaked by Donald Trump that he expected to be arrested on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. So the first thing, obviously, that goes through everybody's mind, it's you have an emotional reaction. That's how most people are. I was, until you have to sit back and think, okay, what's the distraction? What's this all about? And then you really take it into context, what's going on. Here's how I see this whole thing. I don't think, let me just start off with this. If you're planning to protest, don't. If you're planning to go and make a human moat or whatever around Mar-a-Lago, don't. It's not worth sitting in jail. The corruption that's at the level of the government is not worth you sitting in prison for. It's not worth it. It's not a fair trial. This is not a nation of law. It's a nation of political will. And right now, The inmates are running the asylum. The absolute lunatics, the crazy people are running the asylum. Don't protest. This is another Fed setup, just like January 6th was. I'm telling you, don't get involved in that. If you hear my voice, stay away from that stuff. This is all ginned up, in my opinion, to distract from the apocalyptic collapse that's looming and that's impending from the financial sector and the banks. If you, I'll get into that in a little bit, but I just want to make it clear, don't buy the narrative of all this other stuff. If, let's just say, if Trump gets arrested, he'll get arrested. He'll have a little mugshot done. They'll book him and they'll release him. And then it'll be trials for years and years and years. It's a political witch hunt. The allegations are from 2016. And this all comes from moral depravity. I mean, you hush money to a hooker. Covering for somebody's payment of hush money for a hooker and risking your freedom for that, it's not worth it. That's what they want. That's what they want. And if enough protests happen and the feds can do false flags like they've been well known to do, they could go as far as to implement martial law, and it's just not worth it. I'm telling you, it's just not worth it. I'm not a fan of Trump anymore, and I've said that, and I've gotten a lot of flack for this on this show. But you know what? I'm going to pursue truth. I'm going to go after what I believe is right, and I'm not going to fall for the cult. I'm not going to fall for all this crazy nonsense out there. I think Trump, when he first got into office, did a great job on a lot of things. I think his treatment of the Second Amendment was abysmal. I think when he gave control to Fauci and Birx and just let them have the keys to the kingdom, I think that was a tragedy. When he let them lock the country down, when he let them do a lot of things, it wasn't in the best interest of we the people. And for that, he's lost my support on that. And he continues to push the vaccine. He hasn't apologized for it. He said it's his greatest accomplishment, something that's maimed, taken the lives, or negatively affected tens of millions of Americans. The numbers are coming out, and it's tens of millions of Americans. So all that to be said is, I was a huge supporter. I was a donor to him. I voted for him twice. I don't regret it. The election was 100%, in my opinion, stolen from him. There's plenty of evidence, and we've covered that ad nauseum here. I mean, I certainly, he should be the legitimate president of the United States at this point. Should be. All the stuff that he says he's going to do if he gets back into office, he should have done when he was there. I think it was surrounding himself with really, really bad people, which he has a tendency to do, especially his son-in-law, which if you've watched the show for any length of time, you know that. But again, I get comments all the time. And one of the comments was, if you don't like Trump, I'm not watching you anymore. If you don't like, it's okay. That's cool. That's fine. All I ask at this is to ask the right questions, to educate yourself just a little bit on what's going on. And again, that's all I ask. To me, as a Floridian, I'm very, very supportive. I mean, Ron DeSantis isn't even in the race. We don't have a presidential election coming up. We don't have a primary coming up for a long, 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 long time. So pitting two sides one way or the other isn't necessarily the thing to do right now. I'm just saying, when Trump tossed his hat into there, I'm done choosing the lesser of two evils. And I don't want to vote for somebody that's propelled the United States into tyranny and a totalitarian, authoritarian system of government where you let unelected bureaucratic officials dictate the freedoms and the laws that you're allowed to work within. I just don't think that's right. I mean, when you're mandating people to get a shot that's totally unproven and that's killing and maiming tens of millions of people, when you're forcing people to wear a mask, when you're doing all this, that's a serious issue to me. There's a lot of people that just went through with it to do whatever. I've never done that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not playing in their game. Never have been, never will. I'm not playing in this duopoly game of pitting one side to the next. The jury's out on Ron DeSantis for me as president. All I can say is that as governor, what he's done for me, for my family, for my friends, for my area, I love the guy. I'm very, very, very supportive of him, and I'm happy for what he's done. Unfortunately, we're seeing the results in traffic because for me to get anywhere down here, I think our county has grown by almost 1 million people every year for the last 2 years. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. It's called freedom. People want freedom. People move to, they call it the free state of Florida. So we have this deal to where Trump tweets that he's going to get arrested on this leaked document coming out on Tuesday to protest. He told people to peacefully protest on January the 6th and didn't pardon a single one. They're still sitting in jail without due process. A lot of times without a conviction, they're just political prisoners. Which if you're an elected official and you can sleep at night knowing there's political prisoners in the United States of America, I don't understand how you do it. I don't. And we saw the deal with Tucker Carlson get released, all that footage. And we saw both sides of the uniparty with Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer freaking out, forcing Fox News to not let Carlson do a lot of new stuff about that. Why? It's because we've seen the narrative collapse. We saw everything that they told you or they crafted the narrative fall apart because of video evidence. They're talking, I mean, Schumer's talking about it's a lie. They're just literally just roll the tape of what happened that day. And he calls that a lie. He's like, don't believe your eyes. Don't believe what you see. Believe what we told you happened, which is not anything that they've said that's been true. So you have literal members of Congress that are working with Hollywood producers to edit footage and add in sound effects to create a narrative that didn't exist. You have the FBI that won't admit how many agents they had on site on January 6th, and if they entered the Capitol, if they were involved in any of the violence, if they did anything like that. They won't test. They won't give you the answer to that, which indicates to me that they were there. I've seen the evidence of the people that first breached the doors, and they all had radios in their ears. They've had bulletproof vests. They had tactical gear. In my opinion, those were federal agents that were doing what they were supposed to do to create the narrative and the optics for what was going to happen. Now you have the vast majority of the people that are walking through that building within the confines of the ropes that they had roped off. They're walking through, they're taking pictures, doing what they're doing. And you have literal elected congressmen and congresswomen that are framing them and not allowing them to have the video evidence in a court of law to prove their innocence. Nah. Y'all that are going to do any of that stuff tomorrow, you're absolutely out of your mind. Because this is not a nation that's ruled or governed by law. It's ruled and governed by political will. I've said time and time and time and time again that this is not a legitimate government. This is a corporate criminal cabal. I can say a corporate cabalist criminal cabal that's posing as a country. This is not a legitimate government. They're diverting money for money laundering to Ukraine. They're letting all these illegals into the border. They're paying them money. They're trying to pay in San Francisco, trying to give every black person there $5 million. It's a criminal cartel. The flag over my shoulder has now become a symbol of a corporate criminal cabal, not the freedom that we grew up pledging to. It's something I've had a lot of friends over the years that would tell me stuff like this was going to happen, and I thought, not in my lifetime. I mean, not in my lifetime. But it's here. It's definitely here. And so there are links on the screen, and I had a whole show I was going to put together over January 6th. And between being that's a lot of prep work and just being busy and traveling all over the place, I didn't have time to do it. But I'm telling you, there's so much there. And when I went to click on some of those links tonight, just to bring up some of that information, some of these links are taken down already. They don't want the truth to be known. And the truth is that it was a peaceful protest, which Trump said to go to the Capitol and peacefully let your voice be heard, which people do. There's some people that I know that were there. And you have people like Ray Epps, who was saying he's orchestrating it, and who lied under Congress and said he was gone by the same time, when there's video footage to show that he was still there at the time he said he was gone. Then you have the officer who they said was killed was still walking around doing what he was doing after they claimed he died. Then you have the guy they call it the QAnon shaman with the horns and everything like that, that's being led around by 8 different police, sometimes in a very isolated hall, which they could have easily arrested him right there and walked him out, but they didn't. They were trying to open doors. They were trying to do that kind of thing. But this committee would not allow text messages between Pelosi and all these other people to be read. Now, that's not wanting to get to the bottom of what the truth is. That's not wanting to really discover what happened. That's called crafting a narrative and preventing anything that goes against that narrative from being seen by the public. And I've said on many, many, many of these podcasts to not trust a thing that the government, the corporate criminal cabal, tells you. And I say that stronger than ever. Do not trust a thing the government or this criminal corporate cabal tells you. I can't remember who it was, but someone the other day talked about that people should not enlist in the military. I wholeheartedly agree. Wholeheartedly agree. The military it's a woke joke. And I hate to say that, because I've always been a very patriotic person. I've gone to air shows, have had the utmost respect for people that have served, wore the uniform, that risked their lives, that have gone overseas. I've had friends that have served in Iraq, Afghanistan. I just can't imagine being a family who's lost a service member to a war that looks at what's going on now within the ranks, when they're more concerned about gay pride flags and pronouns and gender and race and all this other stuff than they are about the strength to defend and protect this country. But that's what we are. Like I said, the inmates, the mentals, are running the asylum, and it shows. It's a clown show. It's a full-blown clown show. And then you have what you have with this whole thing with Trump. I mean, you've got banks that are insolvent. You got a financial system on the brink, truly on the brink. But we're distracted with this sideshow with Trump. I had a theory the other day. And again, we're the Free Thinkers podcast. We can think however we like. Again, it's the pursuit. We're not always right, but it's the pursuit of the truth and free thought. And we have the desire for truth. And one of the things I thought was, what if Trump's in on this? And hear me out for a second. You have a guy that is proclaiming freedom. He's proclaiming all this other stuff, but he gives the keys of the kingdom over to Fauci and Birx and supports lockdowns and supports an experimental jab that is doing a lot of really horrible stuff to people. And if he sees the truth, he would say, I was wrong. I was misled. These people gave me false information. They were, taken over. I shouldn't have done this. But he doesn't. He doubles down and said, this is the greatest thing that I've did in my presidency, in my life. I saved all these people, that kind of thing. So there's a pattern. You have to understand, you have to lay out patterns for this of someone that's willing to work with the same swamp that he claims he's trying to drain. So when you look at the financial system, everything was, quote, good under Trump, but there was a lot of propping up. When I watched a video the other night of Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, he was asked how much he talks with Biden about interest rates, policy, that kind of thing. He said he's never talked to Biden. They said, well, did you ever talk to Trump? He said, I talk to Trump all the time. Trump was always trying to make sure the economy was propped up. And when I say propped up, there's a whole laundry list of things, but I've listened to Ron Paul for years and years and years, and Ron Paul's been right about every single thing. And this is a house of cards that's about to fall. And I think we're getting really, really close to it falling. Truly, I do. Finally, I've heard Ron Paul say this for 20 years, but the insolvency of the banks and the way that the regulators are working with the banks to allow the banks to lie to the investors about what they're doing, it shows the collusion of everything what's going on. And then when you see the money laundering going to Ukraine, it seems like a lot of these bigwigs are getting their share before the floor falls out. You see SVB Bank, every single employee got a huge raise a day before the bank was shut down. The president was selling stock. They knew what was going on. It was like, before the bank is robbed, you get a bunch of stuff because the bank's going to be robbed and it's going to be gone. So it doesn't really matter. But Trump was in contact with Jerome Powell, and he was, making sure the economy was propped up, cut the rates, kick the can down the road, in essence, essentially. So there's a pattern of working within that. So again, I may be wrong about this, but to distract against a run on the banks, you have to create this story. Comes out Saturday, a day everyone's home, a day everyone can see it. I'm going to get arrested on Tuesday. So now the nation pivots from wondering about what their finances are doing in banks and pivots from just all the other news that's going on about the Biden crime family being paid millions of dollars from China, pivots from everything like that. Now, here's a laser pointer. Look over here to this dog and pony show. And if enough people would I just don't understand why you say protest. I don't understand that. Because he tried to walk back so much of, I said peacefully protest on January 6th. He kept claiming I said peacefully. He didn't say peacefully here. That's what kind of makes me kind of wonder what all this is about. And again, he's played with the swamp team many, many, many times. Played with the swamp team as far as, Jerome Powell and the Fed. Federal Reserve is not anything to do. It's not a federal institution. They call it the Fed. It's a group of private central banks that control the United States money supply. It has nothing to do. It's as federal as Federal Express. They prop it up. It's fiat. It's declared. The whole currency system can collapse in a heartbeat. And now you have the bank and regulatory institutions that are just on thin ice. And we've just had this whole wag the dog distraction, look over here, laser pointer, that kind of thing. So maybe he's playing with them to get everyone distracted from a total collapse of the economy. Everyone's concerned about this. They're concerned about how Ron DeSantis acted or reacted to this, which is insane that everyone's criticizing him. And we're going to play a clip just for clarity, because if you haven't heard it, I think you need to hear this. When I heard it, I heard a lot of the criticism before I heard what DeSantis said. Then when I heard what DeSantis said, I'm like, what he said was perfect. So we're going to watch that clip here in a minute. But again, you have to think of everything, because there's always a sleight of hand. When you have William Casey, the ex-CIA director under Reagan, says, our job won't be complete until every American believes every lie that we tell them. And when you have Otto Kahn and said, our game and our goal is to play both sides of the narrative. I'm telling you, you got to look through the emotion of this, because this is a very emotional time for a lot of people. I remember when they raided Mar-a-Lago. I remember where I was sitting, and I got very emotional about it because I thought this is absolutely unprecedented. When you have, again, I mean, the first initial thought I had was they're going to arrest Trump. I mean, you have literally, Obama doing what he's doing, not even born in this country. You've got Clinton paying $800,000 to Paula Jones as hush money. There's nothing being brought up on that. And again, I'm not trying to make it look like what Trump did was right. I don't know. I literally don't know the facts. I have way more things to do in my life than to go into and do research on him paying a whore for hush money. I don't care about it. It's just, it's disgusting. It's whatever. I would tell you this, it's not worth you getting in legal trouble to defend a guy who's paying hush money to a whore. Take Trump's name out of it and say a guy. I mean, just say what's going on. It's not worth it for you to put your life at risk and to put your family at risk and your freedom at risk to defend a guy paying hush money to a whore. I don't know any more than that. And I don't care to know any more than that. I'm not going to be the most educated person on Trump paying a whore. But I will be educated to know that on January 6th, what they did was a setup. You know it was a setup. We have proof it's a setup. And it's not worth it for you to get involved in that. It's a clown show. It's not worth it. I don't know who's playing who. I don't know what it is. It's not worth it. So if you're planning on going to Mar-a-Lago, I'd stay away from there. Live your life. Do what it's supposed to do, and go and just do that. But don't get involved. Don't get involved in a setup, a Fed trap, because it's a rat trap. It really is. It really is. So let me play this, because DeSantis was at a press conference today, and they asked him about this. I'm just going to play a little bit of his response, because I think it's important that you hear this before you start judging. And again, I'm not a DeSantis apologist. I love what he's done for the state of Florida. The jury is out on him as a national political figure. Again, he has not announced that he's running for office. If he did announce today, I would probably vote for him today over Donald Trump. I know that for a fact based on the evidence that I've seen. The jury's still out. A lot of people can go completely sideways and do all these other things. I'm aware of that. And like I said, we've lost viewers. We've lost all this stuff because I'm very truthful and open and transparent about Donald Trump, but I'm not going to apologize for it. I look at the facts. I don't like what he did about COVID. That's a big thing, and he's still pushing the narrative. But let's look at what DeSantis said that people are criticizing. This is interesting.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Megan from the Florida Standard. We wanted to know what your thoughts are on the rumored Trump indictment, and if you have any role in it if charges are brought on him, would you have any role in extradition to New York?
So I've seen rumors swirl. I have not seen any facts yet, and so I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know this: the Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor, and so he, like other Soros-funded prosecutors, they weaponize their office to impose a political agenda on society at the expense of the rule of law and public safety. He has downgraded over 50% of the felonies to misdemeanors. He says he doesn't want to even have jail time for the vast, vast majority of crimes. And what we've seen in Manhattan is we've seen the crime rate go up, and we've seen citizens become less safe. And so you're talking about this situation with, and look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction, and he chooses to go back many, many years ago to try to use something about porn star hush money payments, that's an example of pursuing a political agenda and weaponizing the office. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. I also think it's important to point out when you're talking about these Soros-funded prosecutors, yes, they may do a high-profile politicized prosecution, and that's bad, but the real victims are ordinary New Yorkers, ordinary Americans in all these different jurisdictions, that they get victimized every day because of the reckless political agenda that these Soros DAs bring to their job. They ignore crime and they empower criminals, and that hurts people, hurts a lot of people every single day. These Soros district attorneys are a menace to society, and I'm just glad that I'm the only governor in the country that's actually removed one from office during my tenure.
So there you go. He was very clear that there's a lot of hearsay. There's no facts, just rumors at this point. He doesn't know what's going on as far as the case with hush money to a whore, prostitute. But he did call out the Soros appointed DA, which Soros has funded a lot of these across the country. And the fact that this DA, who his only marketable skill is he's a black male, and again, you understand that they put people in these positions based upon race, gender, sexual ideology, and viewpoints. And again, you see how this just so many different people have literal no skills. I mean, Kamala Harris, her only skill is she's a flatbacker. Literal. I mean, look at Willie Brown from San Francisco, the mayor. How Kamala moved up the ladder was her skills with Willie Brown. And then she moved up the ladder in the state of California. And then they put her in there as probably the greatest insurance plan against the former vice president, because there's no way on earth people would want her to assume that position. No pun intended. But anyway, you've got look at the press secretary. Probably, and I said it last time, probably one of the dumbest human beings on earth, but she's a woman, she's black, she's queer. And again, from last podcast to this, I haven't figured that out, what that is. Then you look at the Levine character, who just, is a transgender in the health and human services. And you've got Pete Buttigieg, who's, the gay transportation safety director. You got the nuclear guy, who's a gay guy that does, literal. These people are just, you're put in positions with no marketable skills other than your race, your gender, or your sexual ideology. So now we go back to this DA. He's put in that position, and the prosecutor, because he's a black guy, he has no clue what he's doing. because he's trying to take people that get arrested on felonies and take them down to misdemeanors so they can go back out and commit more crime. When you see the crime rate go up, that's probably not a great policy. You see videos in New York of people. There was a video today, some guy getting beat with a baseball bat and stabbed by a couple because of a parking incident. And I mean, it's just, it literally, they believe the stuff that you tell them about race and all this other stuff. I got an email right before we went on today, and it says school suspends black students for anti-black racism. School suspends black students for anti-black racism. This is the third time we've had perpetrators of a racially motivated incident identified as African Americans. So there's not enough racism going on that they have to they have to Jesse Smollett the whole thing and make it happen. So we're creating this division in this country. We're creating this great divide. And again, it's like you're trying to pit this stuff on Ron DeSantis. And a lot of people are saying that he didn't say enough, or they were saying he didn't come out and, defend Trump and stuff. And my opinion is, you've got Trump out there calling him Ron DeSanctimonious. You've got Trump out there trying to pin Ron DeSantis from partying with underage girls and all this other stuff. You've got Trump out there just completely belittling Ron DeSantis. What does DeSantis owe Trump after that? I mean, again, Trump could be so successful if he would pick the fights that are important and not go after every little bait that he's taken, and surround himself with good, qualified people. I'm telling you, he could be immensely successful, but he surrounds himself with yes men who would do just whatever he says, or that he'll surround himself with people that just want to bring him down, and they'll just kind of like play in his ego and take him with him. It's crazy. And that's the thing that I like about DeSantis is he understands what to go after. There's no need to get involved in a circus when it's just a rumor of a circus. Now, if something happens, if, they start Billy Club beating Trump or something like that with handcuffs on, but that's when you get involved in the situation. But you don't get involved in a soap opera before anything like that happens. I think it's stupid. I wouldn't do it. So again, there's a lot of people, including Steve Deace, who I respect a lot, that said today wasn't one of DeSantis' greatest moments, of how he wouldn't stand up to the, was it like the swamp or something like that? To me, I don't think you play the swamp's game. And again, DeSantis has been very, very on key, on target to not go after any of the attacks on Trump. And I think it drives him crazy. We'll see tomorrow. But again, I'm going to say it again. Don't get involved in this stuff with protesting and that kind of thing. See what happens. I mean, in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it says, seek first to understand and then to be understood. Get the information, get the factual information out before you emotionally react. Because when you emotionally react, a lot of times, not a lot of good things come out of that. Very, very, very few good things come out of that. So I just want to just say that to you tonight before whatever happens tomorrow. I'm not holding my breath. It's not really going to concern me, because the worst case scenario, I guess, with this whole thing is they'll put handcuffs on them. They'll get their picture. They'll book them. I saw one guy, he posted a picture of Rush Limbaugh's mugshot when Rush came back from vacation, and I guess they found some painkillers or something like that on his plane, and they arrested him. And Rush had the biggest smile on his face and everything like that. One of the guys said, I hope Trump has a big old smile on his face when they take his mugshot and everything like that. So they can't, I mean, the thing that they're going to want to see is Trump all sodden and downtrodden and that kind of thing like that. Don't give them that. But they probably will, because that will be used for fundraisers and all that other stuff. But to me, I'd smile about it, because I'd think it's kind of funny. I mean, if you got a former president arrested for allegedly doing something like this back in 2016, it's stupid. It's crazy. It's politically motivated. Smile about it, and then just go, do something about it. But like I said, risking your life and your freedom and your family and your finances and all that other stuff to defend a guy that made hush money payments to a whore, Don't do it. It's not worth it. Not worth it at all. And I think there's a lot more that you can be concerned with, especially the banking industry. This has kind of really got me interested in that because I'm I've looked at a lot of the banking Babylonian money magic they would call it, as far as what they used to do with money, and kind of where that is, where crypto is, where precious metals are. I mean, when you look at the bank, I'm telling you, just understand fractional reserve banking. That's all you have to understand to make you really, really on edge. Because whatever you put in the bank, whatever your deposit goes in the bank, by law, they only have to keep 10%. They can lend the 90% of what you have back out. So if everybody tries to get their money out of the bank, it's not there, not even close to being there. And that's the game that they allow to be played by taking money off of the gold standard. The gold standard used to be there's a paper IOU, which was $1 that you could always exchange for a, something that backed it, which was gold or silver, or whatever it was. So it was a gold reserve note. That means the gold is in reserve. That's the note that you can trade. And what they've done with this central banking system is not there. Now, the thing that DeSantis said later on in that press conference that he was signing laws against is a central bank digital currency, which I would encourage everyone here to be vehemently against. That is just the biggest Ponzi scheme you've ever seen in your life that's going to make it collapse more so than ever. There is a vast difference between a government controlled digital currency and Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Vast difference. To me, I am still a supporter of Bitcoin. I'm in Bitcoin. And the reason is because there's a finite amount that will ever be released. There is it's the most secure thing on the planet if you don't have it in an exchange, meaning if it's on Coinbase or something like that, it's not in your wallet. It's technically in Coinbase's wallet, and they give you access to it through their wallet. But if you take it off and put it in what they call cold storage or something that to where you actually own it, there's no one on earth, no government, no anything like that that can get that from you. And it is validated. You can't make more Bitcoin. You can't devalue it or anything like that as far as with these, printing more money or anything of that sort. There was an article that my friend Kevin shared with me, and Kevin was the one that was on here on this show talking about cryptocurrency when we had that show. There was this is the article. Former Coinbase CTO places a $2 million bet that Bitcoin will hit $1 million in 90 days. Now, that doesn't mean, and I'm going to explain the terms of this bet real quick, because to me, I'm going to wrap this up with this, because I think this is where people's focus needs to be. They can't be distracted on the laser pointer over here on Trump. They can't be distracted on balloons floating over the air and all this other nonsense that Wag the Dog and the Hollywood script producers are trying to get you to distract yourself with. There's real issues and real problems out there. This is one of them. He's betting that as Bitcoin, the price rises because people see that it is very, very, very secure as compared to a fiat declared. That's what fiat means. It means declared currency that has no value other than the military that backs it. And we know what the military is at this point. The petrodollar, the oil that you can buy and trade and sell on it. And now, if you have the petrodollar being eliminated and you start having either on the Russian currency, the Chinese yuan, some other currency that becomes the global standard, the dollar will collapse faster than you can ever imagine, and the money that you have is going to be probably its most valuable use will be starting fires, and I mean that very seriously. I mean, when you look at after World War II in Germany, I mean, it was like 2 billion of their currency to buy a loaf of bread. I mean, it was just completely worthless. completely worthless. So there's a lot that you can do to hedge yourself. I'm not giving financial advice whatsoever. I'm just saying to do some research on this, because the banking industry is hanging by a thread right now, and the focus of Americans should be that, and should be, what we're going to do about that, instead of following the laser pointer to the sky or to jail or wherever we're going like that. So anyway, it's been a while, and yeah, don't get involved in this stuff. Just sit back and get the facts, and understand that whatever you're seeing, there's always a diversion, there's always a distraction. They're always doing something behind. I mean, there's the 3-cup, the 3 cups with a ball under there. Just keep your eye on that ball as much as you can. And the last thing I'll say is that don't fear. I mean, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And you know what? If this whole thing collapses and we die, guess what? We get to go be with Jesus. We get to go just spend life in eternity. And I hope everyone's prepared for that, because, man, I mean, think how many times that, Paul or someone out like that said, he goes, I would much rather die. It's far greater for me to die, but I would rather stay here to do the work that I'm called to do. We got to have that attitude. We got to have the attitude that, we're here for such a time as this to spread the word. Like I said, this isn't the most popular podcast. We're going to flood the zone with information. We're going to try to challenge you to think differently. We're going to try to make it to where the propaganda that they're putting, the literal propaganda they're putting, can be challenged, because we're that other person, like with that Milford experiment, when they brought another person in the room where they were telling them to shock somebody and said, are you sure you're going to do this? Most of the time, those people wouldn't go through with that shock. So that's what we're doing. We're telling you, are you sure you're going to believe this stuff? Are you sure you're going to believe what the government's telling you? Have they ever told you anything that's the truth? Nah, not really. It's crazy. It's crazy when you start looking at the magic behind Disney, what goes on. And I'm not saying literal Disney. I'm just saying that's kind of a term, for a facade. When you go over there, you look at all these great buildings and everything like that, and you walk around the back and they're just held up with 2x4s and that kind of thing. That's what this looks like. So again, I know it's bread and circus. That was a Roman term that they use when you have the Colosseum and they give you wine and bread and, let you watch the gladiator events and stuff like that. And you got Caesar and all that other stuff over there, coin clipping. And there's just so much I can go into with that. We don't have time. But again, I wanted to come to you guys tonight and just give you that update and information. And again, if there's anybody that was considering doing anything crazy, there's save your energy for what's coming down the road. That's all I can say. Save your energy for what's coming down the road. And again, don't live in a spirit of fear, but live in power and in love and a sound mind, because the fights and the battles that we have aren't against flesh and blood, but they're against spiritual forces and principalities. And that's what's attacking this country right now. That's what's attacking all these other, these woke ideologies. That's what's attacking everything like that. And understand that it's not flesh and blood, it's spiritual, and it's principalities, and it's just a demonic warfare that's going on. So there's power in prayer. I'm telling you, there's power in prayer, and pray it up, and just do your part. Do what you can do to get the word out, and bring God into it. Because let me tell you, I've seen in my life some incredible results from the power of prayer, and that's something that I'll never, ever, ever go without. So they can take me out, but they can't take that out, because you know what? To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Love y'all.